Am a brand new passport bro living here in Thailand for just 6 weeks. I hate the term. I love my new lifestyle, but at the same time, I want to say that a lot of things that people, including Andrew Tate and everybody else, telling you that is going to happen once you move to one of these countries is not exactly what is actually happening. Now, instead of making my own video about this, I ended up being a guest on a podcast of an influencer. His name is Dan, who I watch almost every day. So instead, with his permission, I'm going to post right now, right here, and let you essentially see what we talked about, because this is what nobody really tells you about what happens when you become a passport bro. So here we go.
Let's get into it because I know there's a lot of guys that are interested in it, and I think probably it's fair to say quite a few women. So, Alex, the biggest question: what the hell is a passport bro?
Yeah, so I have to explain this to people a lot because it's a new term, much like many terms that we had to invent because of what happened to modern dating, right? It's by the way, I hate it because I'm not really a bro, right? But it is what it is. So essentially, as you mentioned it, in your TikTok videos, I actually watch you on TikTok mainly. In America has become quite hopeless, I would say. Mm-hmm. And I believe there are now 4 types of men. One's are incels, another one's men going their own way, right? So, but there are some of us who don't have to put up with that shit anymore, mm-hmm. right? We've tried, and we realized that the type of a woman that we have always dated before and we want is just no longer there. And even if we find one, it's very likely that she will be swallowed by the culture and social media and will end up having to get a divorce or breakup. So very few of us have realized that, like I don't have any kids. I don't have any sort of physical obligations. I'm not taking care of my sick parents or anything like that. And I have a job where I can do my job from anywhere in the world. I can actually free to go and move to any country I want, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so what we decided is like, why not go and seek women who actually do appreciate men like us? We're not bad. We're, educated, in shape. We are good men. In my case, like I said, I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I always been good to women, never lifted my hand at one. Where all of those things that used to get us women, good women, to it just doesn't mean shit anymore. So we moved to countries where men like us are appreciated, and we can find traditional women who we used to date and just can't find anymore in the US. Now, there is a big difference between what we're doing now and what guys used to do when they used to go to Russia or Ukraine and mail order brides, right? We got smarter. We realized that if we find a woman like that, one thing we should absolutely not do is bring her back into the very culture that has poisoned all of the women in that culture.
I got to stop you right there if I can.
Yeah.
I have not heard that before. Really? So
that's the big difference. That's the key, because well, here's the thing. This is actually what happened to my last relationship. Essentially, if I meet a girl here who is traditional, submissive, all of that stuff, and I bring her back to America, where she does no longer have the support system of her friends and family who usually support the traditional roles and the type of marriage that we're talking about, and I'm going to dump her in the middle of, she'll make some new friends who are going out to clubs and, independent. I don't need no men, women. She will speak English, and she will be able to watch Sex and the City and listen to Nicki Minaj and even watch Beyonce, right? One of the biggest cons of modern women, really. So then what do you think is going to happen? She's no longer going to be the traditional woman. She will succumb to the culture, and I will have to get a divorce. And the last thing I want to do in America actually is get a divorce, because here It's very different. She's not going to have my house in Sacramento if I divorce her here,
Right, right.
which I hope I never will have to, right? If I get married. So that's a big difference. We will stay here once we find these women. As a matter of fact, I'm learning Thai already. I've only been here for 4 or 5. It's my 5th week, and I've already taken 12 Thai lesson classes, and I'll tell you why it's very important.
I'm fascinated right now. Go ahead.
So so I think one thing that I think the value that I'm going to bring to people watching and listening right now is, I don't think what people are telling you what happens when you come to these countries is actually reality, and that's what I'm seeing. And obviously, I will report back in another 6 or 12 months when I more accumulated to this culture. But what Andrew Tate and everybody else tells you, you show up here and you're in all of a sudden top 0.1%, and all these women run to you. That is just not true, and for many reasons. So I kind of wanted to give you guys my impression of what's been happening, some theories that I had that I've kind of already constructed of why this is happening. And for those guys who, this is a big move. This is one of the biggest decisions you would make in your life, to essentially move countries. I think that people are being fooled. Now, I have no regrets, by the way. My life is already a million times better for many other reasons. But I think people are being misinformed about what happens when you show up here. First, unless you have any questions,
if I could just stop you for 1 second, because you blew my mind so I always thought, again, you're educating me here, and that's the whole purpose behind this show, is I always thought you went over, found the girl, stayed there for a little while, found the right woman, and brought her back. In fact, the 2 instances I know of, that's exactly what they did. Not the mail order bride, but they went over there, they lived for weeks, months, whatever it was, found the one, and then they moved back to the States. So you're saying under the passport bro movement, you don't actually plan on coming back, other than, I'm sure, to visit or family or something like that. But your intention is to still reside, in your case, Thailand, or I know there's other areas they go to. That blows my mind. That's something I think a lot of people don't understand, Alex. I think most people think you're going over to bring someone back.
Yeah, no, and listen, but there is no Webster definition of a passport bro, right? But this is what what this phenomenon that people are kind of describing is what we're doing. We're actually moving here, and like all of my houses are rented out in America. I sold my car. I don't even have health insurance there. I'm completely cut all of my legal ties with the U.S. essentially, right? I have my health insurance here. I have my condo here. I don't know if I want to really own a car here, but you know what I mean? My life is fully here, and I'm planning on it, and I'm learning Thai. This one thing that people should absolutely tell people who want to move to Thailand and other countries to become passport bros is to absolutely start learning the language a year before you go, if you can. Because what I've discovered, and I guess I can move into this,
feel free, go ahead.
What I've discovered when I got here, obviously the neighborhood that I lived in was recommended to me because a lot of foreigners live here, and a lot of people speak English, including people who service you, right? And that's what I needed, because I don't speak Thai. But what I realized is, okay, generally speaking, yes, majority of Thai women are traditional. They're into gender roles. They're modest. They're soft-spoken. They're obedient. They're submissive. They're feminine, all of that stuff. But those who actually spend some time with foreigners, or speak English, or visited Western countries, or have jobs in Western based companies, they have been already infected. But I call it the real virus, right? The modern dating in America is the real virus. So they've been already infected. They don't need no man. A lot of times they make their own money and they don't need no man. They behave exactly like Western women with including ghosting and I mean, just the classics of what you talk about on your channel and your TikTok all the time. So you cannot date here, or you should not date women who actually speak full English. Now, in Thailand, most women don't speak English. Now, in Philippines, that's a little different, and I can't speak for that culture, but just in case people know, most Filipinos speak perfect English, actually.
Well, they were U.S. territory for decades, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but as soon as a girl can watch Sex in the City and, like I said, listen to understand Beyonce's lyrics, the virus hits her. And it's not returnable. Once a girl experiences this, right? What it's like to be the Western modern woman, there is really no going back with them. I have not seen any of them kind of fixed and gone back saying, oh no, I'm going back to being submissive now. At least I have not met one. So
I find that fascinating because it speaks to the misnomers that people have with all this. Is now I kind of know what you're talking about, because like I said, I have friends all over the world. I have talked with people from everywhere, and I know exactly what you're talking about. The Western culture has invaded the East, and even the Mideast at this point. And it does, like you said, it does change them. And I also, by the way, I think it changes the guys too, to be fair. But it's just interesting to hear you say they don't go back. They change and adopt the Western lifestyle. I don't know how to phrase it, but that they're still in your case, Thailand or the Philippines or Japan or wherever. And I'm sure that it kind of affects how things go with you trying to meet someone there.
Yeah, the culture very different, and I've already noticed that by going to different dates. But I also have to say, my life here is just so much better. Like, healthcare here is so much better. I mean, listen. I had one of the best health insurances that I could buy in California, and I paid $1,100 a month. So in order for me to see a specialist with a $65 copay, this is just my numbers. This is like Blue Shield of California numbers, right? Literally the wait time is 2 months. Here, you show up we have the best hospital in Thailand here, private hospital, okay? You show up, you're seen within an hour, and your entire bill is less than the copay that you pay in the US after paying the $1,100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the hospital is modern. The room that I was seeing has fresh flowers in it. By the way, that also includes the pharmacy, which you don't have to go to. They literally hand you the medication once you leave the doctor's office. These are all Western doctors with Western, degrees. Everybody speaks English. Everything is clean, and there's a McDonald's right on the same floor, just in case if you're hungry. So
I don't know if that's a good thing, Alex.
I'm just saying, a cafe, Starbucks, a cafe. That floor had a McDonald's, so it's McDonald's. But
yeah.
But I'm just saying, right? It's, and I can go on and on and on. My life is so much better here already, because of that. I want to stay here. There's no wokeness here, by the way. They just celebrated whatever was a Pride Month, right? Mm-hmm. Rainbow flags everywhere. Nobody says anything. There's tons of trans people. There's also the degrees of the different types of people who live here is amazing. There's from trans people, they call ladyboys here. It's actually not a bad term, from ladyboys, all the way to, like, we also have a Muslim neighborhood where women are fully covered in burqas, and everybody just walks around and nobody has a problem with anybody. It's freaking beautiful.
It is. So that's the way it should be, right? At least I think so.
Yeah.
But...
So literally, I see the other day, because the hospital is in a very, very Muslim neighborhood. Like, the lady boy was talking to the Muslim man. It was just crazy, beautiful. So anyway, so yeah, so I want to stay here no matter what. I think that's yeah. But but let's talk about men, right?
Yep.
I thought about what happened to women, why women have become I don't need no man, why they are no longer submissive or don't even know what men want. It's all about them. And if a woman in their 40s with kids can say, but I have a career, that's my biggest value. And why things have gotten this way, I don't blame women. I actually never heard your opinion about this, but I absolutely 100% blame men, because if men did not allow this to happen, right? If the men wouldn't become such simps in America, women would not behave this way. So, every time you see a guy who comes up to a girl and at the bar, never met her before, and says, "Can I buy you a drink?" another guy should slap him across his face, because that is just the most pathetic way to simp. And so it's on us, gentlemen. It's my opinion that it's on us.
I have to tell you. So my viewpoint on a lot of that isn't that far from yours. I'm older than you by a little bit, about 20 years, give or take. I remember feminism in the 70s. And I have said many times here on TikTok, everywhere, that I was a supporter of feminism back then. It needed to happen. It really did. It started changing very late 70s, early 80s, really started snowballing in mid 80s. And one of the reasons that I say that happened is not that women changed, men did. They lost their way, is the way I will often put it. They cowed down to it, so to speak. They thought that, yes, women needed to be equal, but that means I have to lessen myself so much to make them equal. And that's not actually what the original feminists of the 70s wanted. They wanted to be equal with men, not one above the other. And it kind of has moved since then to now the pendulum has swung all the other way, at least my opinion, right? I know the feminists won't agree with us, but that's okay.
Yeah. That means that I'm very proud that feminists don't agree with us. Actually.
Yeah, it is. To be honest with you, and I've had these conversations recently, most of the 70s era feminists now hate what's going on right now. And I've talked about it on various channels. My very good friend of mine was very feminist in the 70s, and she's appalled by what it's become. And as she said, and this is her words, not mine, it's become hatred of men. And that's not what we ever wanted. We just wanted to be seen as equals.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've done videos about this on my channel, even though I talk about electric cars. My audience wanted to know why I'm leaving, so I told them. But I absolutely 100% blame men for allowing it and to continue to allow it. Which brings me to the next point that I wanted to make. Now, once I landed here, somehow there was no line of beautiful Thai women lined up to date me at the airport.
Wait, what?
I know.
I thought they were waiting by the hundreds, because that's what all the passport bros say on TikTok.
Right. Now, listen, here's the weird thing is that, when I got here, men like me, I don't want to really talk about me, but like men like me, when we get here, if we're in shape, if we're a good man, educated, well-traveled, obviously can provide and have good family values, are we one of the best choices for these women to date and to marry? I do believe so. It's just happened, nothing against Thai men. And there are some really Thai men that are like very high value Thai men here, absolutely. But that's just how it is. So that's still true here, I can tell you. So why isn't that happening? As a matter of fact, I noticed something else, and I know this may be a little bit controversial, but I got to say it anyway. I look at foreign men here from European countries, from the US, and I look at what kind of women they're walking around with. Now, let's just put aside, 7-year-old fat, slobby, just bold dudes who just give up and walking around with 22-year-old, girls in mini dress. Let's just that aside, right?
Mhm.
I'm talking about just like regular guys who come in here, they're in shape and everything. I gotta tell you, they're not walking around with what I would consider beautiful women. As a matter of fact, the most beautiful women who are not ladyboys, the most beautiful women here, I have to say, even women here admit that are ladyboys. But the most cis women, beautiful cis women here that I've seen, are with Thai men. So these passport bros somehow are walking around with very average women, with a few exceptions. And I could not, and I have a theory, but I still, this is something I'm going to have to report in another 6 or 12 months. Because I would think that most of these guys who are, by the way, younger and richer than me, should be able to do better, at least in terms of looks, right? So that's what's happening on the location here, on ground zero.
So this brings up a point that I think I'm going to make that I think is important. Is it sounds to me like it's really no different than what I've heard from literally everywhere across the world, right? Women tend to there are certain women that will gravitate towards certain men, or you want to call them high value, whatever. The majority of us, myself included, we're somewhere, I call us average, and I don't mean that in a negative way in any way, shape, or form. I'm not Brad Pitt. I can't draw what Brad Pitt can. I realize that. Doesn't make him better than me or at all. And I've talked to people from Europe, I've talked from Asia, Thailand, and so on and so forth. Everybody says the same thing. And it just, to me, it speaks to more the human condition. We're all ingrained to be that way. We all have preferences. I mean, I know that's a bad thing now, right? But the reality is, no matter what culture you're going to, you're going to see what you're talking about. Different, I don't know, levels. I hate to use that term, but then the other side of it too, and I'm going to ask you if this plays into it, is we all have that thing with the accent, I'll call it, right? So to me, for example, the British accent, when a woman speaks with a British accent, my ears perk up. I'm not going to lie about it, right? I don't care what she looks like, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
French, same thing, right? Other people, it's pick your language. Do you see some of that? Do you think that plays a part in what's going on?
No. Here's my theory. I can only tell you what my theory is right now. I think, and I've seen this already, when men come here, they just can't stop fucking simping. They do not realize that the tables have been turned, and so they continue doing what they're doing, and therefore they end up with it's like going to a car dealership, which has never been able to afford a car, but you finally go into a car dealership, and instead of going to a bunch of them and test driving a bunch of cars, you show up to the first dealership that's nearest your house, and you literally buy the first car that you see. Mm-hmm. Because I think, again, this is a theory, that these guys have been treated so poorly. That's why, we're here. That the first girl who actually treats us well, and a lot of these Thai women are amazing how they treat us, that they just, they just say, okay, I'm going to stay with this one, instead of actually going and saying, well, wait a second, what are my other choices? But because they've also been simping for continue to simp, these are not the best women. And I think they might have another reality check at some point. I'll give you a quick example. So I met one of these guys here, and I wanted to go and hang out with him over the weekend, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to let you know last second, because I'm trying to go out with this girl, and she's gonna let me know whether she's available Friday, on Saturday, or Sunday night, and whenever that happens, I'm gonna go and see her. And I'm like, dude, why are you here? You can be treated like shit like this.
How's that any different than, say, California, right?
Are you kidding me? Yes. You invite a girl out and you say, how about Saturday night at 7 p.m.? And her answer, there are only two answers, right? Mm-hmm. No. Well, yes. And everything else is no. With an example, it was like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take my granddaughter to the hospital. How about Sunday at 7 p.m., right? But essentially, that's still to me a yes.
And I would agree with you. That would be a yes. Yeah.
Everything else is a no. And when a girl is telling you no, you need to get the fuck out of there. You don't sit around like a little bitch and wait for her to tell you when she's available. Now, first of all, I have a rule of I don't date busy women. Okay, I just don't date busy women. If you're that busy, good for you. Yeah. But you're not for me. I'm the one who's busy. I'm the one who's going to be a provider in this family. So I'm sorry. My time is more valuable here. Again, you don't have to play, but this is how it's going to be in my family. So, and we're in Thailand. We're in Bangkok on top of that. Do you know how many cute, skinny women are walking around here all the time that haven't had a first date in years? And you picked that one? The one that you literally is just in the entire America and Europe is infested with? And so this is my theory. This is why these guys are not walking around with beautiful Thai women. There are plenty of here. They just walking around with, and so this is the theory. I will have to get back to you on what I think, what I found out, if I'm wrong, right or wrong.
Right. I find it fascinating, Alex, what you're talking about, because again, the conception that I get from seeing the Passport Bro videos on TikTok, YouTube, all of them, they think that they're just going to walk, like you said, walk off the plane and there's lines of them waiting for them. And two, they're going to be the, perfect 10 appearance wise. And all of that. And I'm really appreciative that you're kind of spelling this out for guys, because it sounds to me like you said, it's really not that much different than the States, Europe, or wherever. And if you've had trouble dating for whatever reason, and you keep the same behaviors going, I talk with guys about this that I coach a lot of times, is, you're going to keep meeting the same girl because you have not taken responsibility for what you need to change, whatever that might be, right? Everybody's different. And it sounds to me like they're repeating the same mistake. They're going overseas assuming I'm going to find, pick your supermodel, and she's going to fall in love with me, and she's going to be waiting on the airport tarmac. And that's not the case. You still have to make the effort, if you will. That's really no different than it would be in California, New York, I don't know, Houston, Texas, whatever, or Paris, France, for that matter. So it's just, This is a really good point that you're making, and I hope that the people that are listening to this are listening to it and taking it to heart.
So here's the adjustment, right? First of all, I moved out of the neighborhoods where all these foreign people, mainly men, live, and where women are used to that, and where women speak English. I now live in a still pretty good neighborhood, but majority of people who live here, like 99%, are Thai. So I walk around, there are very few other foreigners around me, so this is not a hunting ground for those women. By the way, I should probably mention, I can't believe I haven't yet, the women will line up for you in like certain clubs and areas, but it would be very, very obvious why, right? It's
they're not the women you want to be marrying,
right?
If we're trying to keep this somewhat clean, but you could find that, by the way, in many cities in the U.S. too.
Yes. And I wanted to mention that as a positive, because I want to tell you some of the negatives, but I also want to tell you why I still am happy that I would have done it a million times over. But let me just again, this is probably the most important information that I can give you, audience. So now I'm in a neighborhood where I'm kind of forced to learn Thai as fast as I can. I'm still basic level. I'm trying to order my breakfast and I'm trying to order my Starbucks in Thai, and I'm making progress. But the two women that I've gone out with that have been the Thai women that I thought I would meet here, we speak through a Google Translate a lot of times. And by the way, both of us will learn languages much faster because of that. And Thai women are amazing at just helping you with everything, because that's the type of women we want, right? Including learning Thai. So Thai language. So, but these are the women who do not speak English almost at all. And I had an amazing time with them. And but the women who spoke pretty good English, or the women who I met in the neighborhoods where a lot of English speaking foreigners live, they were exactly how they are in America. There's no reason to leave, because, like I said, this virus spreads very quickly. You know what I mean? So now here's one point that I really need to make, is that I don't think Thai women or Filipino women, or generally those women in these traditional countries, are that much better at knowing what's good for them as far as dating. You know, you can log in yourself and change location on OkCupid, and you'll see this girl saying, "Oh, I want to be friends first," or, you know, "I'm a single mother in my 40s, but I want a love story and I want you to guarantee it to me, and I have no clue that I'm competing with 25-year-old girls," you know, or would say no hookups. Like, one of the dumbest things you can put on a dating app profile is no hookups. It's like, you know, when I lived in Oakland, California, putting "please don't rob me" on my you know, house window, like, you know, like, that's not going to stop them. You know, it's actually going to stop good people.
I was going to say, if anything, it might be inviting them to do whatever you're saying. Yeah.
So you know, or "love me the way I am," all of that whole shit. But here's why Thai women and, you know, traditional women, it is not so much because of them. It's about their support system. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's about the support system, meaning the culture, the tradition, the friends, and family. You know, these families want their, you know, daughters and sisters to get married and have kids and have a good man taking care of them. So it's, in a lot of people here, especially women, they live with their families until they get married. You can see women in their 20s and 30s living with their family. That's perfectly normal. And I love that, right? They're not living with a bunch of, you know, college roommates who are going out getting drunk, and, you know, they live with their family, and their family values are being enforced. And you know what else here, Dan? Which probably number one reason is most of these women have fathers. Probably the biggest reason the dating scene in America has completely fallen apart is too many women don't even know what a good man is anymore. You can just, you can tell by talking to them.
I've talked about that myself in the past, is they don't have that role model. You know, my daughters grew up with me as a role model. So I taught them what to look for. I didn't sit them down and say, you know, look for this, blah, 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 you know, my list of whatever it might be. But they learned by seeing who I was, how I interacted with their mothers, good, bad, and indifferent, right? And all of that. And I think one of the things I was going to bring up is the differences in the cultures as far as family, because I do think that's a big difference. You know, I have friends that are from China, and I have one friend that's from Japan. And they talk about the differences in America regarding family. In China, for example, my friends, the grandparents are taken care of by the children. There's not nursing homes, right? Japan's very similar to that. And again, it kind of all ties together, pun intended, with how the differences in the cultures are. The East, the Orient, whatever you want to use, is much more family oriented, whereas the West, and England isn't much different than the States as far as that goes, from what I've heard.
Not anymore.
That, you know, it's get away from the family and become your own individual. And there's positives to that. There's negatives to it. But I do think that you hit a very good point there, that one of the big differences is that these girls are growing up with their fathers. And by the way, the boys are too, right? So you learn how. My theory has always been that neither parent can be the other. Fathers can't be mothers, mothers can't be fathers. It's impossible. We think differently, we act differently, and the children learn from both. That's why they need both. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to, is the women over there. Boy, that sounds awful, I guess, but they kind of have that family structure. And then, of course, that's going to carry on, I would assume.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons we don't want to take these women out of that support system and into, again, the culture that's going to ruin them, right? This support system is everything. And I don't understand why people don't talk about how traditional women here are not just traditional on their own. They're traditional because they have this support system. Their friends are traditional, their families are traditional. They know what a good man, or, they know what it's like to have a father and a role model, most of the time. By the way, this is a very non-violent culture, very respectful culture. I shit you not, people bow to each other all the time.
That's the whole Eastern cultures of all like that.
But that's just respect. This culture, like, it's what I'm saying is that, are all of this fathers and these girls have amazing people? No, but overall, they're much better fathers and men than, Western men, because the culture is so respectful to just other human beings here, which I haven't seen that much, definitely in California. For sure, a little bit more of that I've seen in Texas, but we're definitely going away from that, unfortunately, in Western cultures. But they still have it here, and that's extremely, extremely important. So these women will still try to do all kinds of stupid stuff for them not to meet their, a perfect man. You know what I mean? From their dating profiles to a lot of stuff, how they act. But I am determined. I can see how I can find a good traditional woman and keep her, because she will continue being traditional, because I'm not going to yank her out of her support system. I'm actually very appreciative of that support system. And it's just, I need to live where I live now, which is not a foreigner neighborhood. I'm learning Thai, and I'm dating women who don't speak much English. It's actually very interesting how dating someone who you kind of have a limited communication with can be a positive rather than a negative. Right?
How so? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's
because essentially, a lot of what I've noticed that and I think you probably spoke to way more men than I obviously about it. A lot of times it's hard to get in America and in the Western cultures. It's even hard to get the first date or a second date, because women are just looking for an excuse to move on to the next guy, to the next Tinder match or whatever. So, and the more you discuss on that before the first date and even on the first date, the more she will find that something's wrong with you, right? Mm-hmm. Here, you have to be very careful how you communicate, because there's only so many things you can say. And the first thing that you think about is when she said something that you're like, I don't know. You go like, no. She's not a bad girl. She does not think this. She either didn't communicate well in her broken English, or Google Translate has not done a good job.
Yeah.
So you are forced into a framework where you have to communicate about only important things, right? Mm-hmm. And you absolutely have to allow for miscommunication. And I think those two things is what ruin a lot of, first dates that never happen, or the second dates that never happen in the Western world. So there is actually, it's much harder to get into the fight when you don't speak each other languages.
That's an interesting point, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking, I'm sure body language, you're going to learn to read that a little bit more, because you don't have the verbal, but It also allows you, in a very simplistic manner, it's allowing you to learn how to communicate with each other, which, in my opinion, has been completely lost between men and women in the West. We don't think alike, and we used to try and communicate to each other. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. Oh, okay, now I see what you're thinking. That type of thing. That's gone. It's been so cut and dried, black, white. There's no gray. There's no communication whatsoever. And you talk about it even on dating, right? It's been a while since I've dated. I never did the whole app thing, but when I back in the 70s and 80s, when I was dating a lot, I would go and hey, you want to go out? We go out to dinner. It was dinner and a movie type thing, but over dinner you talked, right? You had conversations, and it might be about things. My impression now, and I may be wrong on this because I'm not dating, is now it's more about the event. Rather than sitting down, say, and having dinner and then going to a movie, it's what is this big splash you're going to make? And is that big splash going to be good enough to get a second date? My argument with guys is always the first date is always a coffee date, period. And I try and get them,
100% agree.
and I try and get them to set a 1 hour time limit. Good, bad, or if the date's going great, you're leaving in an hour. If it's going horrible, you're leaving at least in an hour, if not sooner. And that way, it takes a lot of the pressure off and gets that event thing out of it. Of course, the women hate it. But it sounds like what you're describing there isn't really that much different than what's going on here, except that you're communicating more. And you have to, right? You're forced to by the language barrier.
Be more careful. Your communication has to be much better quality. You can't be talking about all kinds of shit. Doesn't matter, right? You have to, because there's only so much you want to type into the Google Translate. And I've always also think that a lot of times whatever I was able to get in the five weeks of living here, but my first dates with these women were more about experiences that we had, right? So yes, we can't just do 1 hour coffee dates because it's just but with the last girl I went to a night market, and that's a whole event with some live music. Another girl, ice skating. So a lot of physical communication, and I don't mean sexual, I mean just physical communication, but also you're having an experience and you're experiencing each other in sort of a universe that's more than just you and her sitting and talking all the time. And there's something to it. There's pros and cons, but I'm just saying this, to me, my first dates with this women who didn't speak as much English, and we had to use Google Translate, they were just better quality dates. I have to tell you, it's just a better quality dates for my taste. So that's one thing that nobody tells you, is that do not show up in a touristy neighborhood and start dating women who speak English. I know that's easy, but that's not what's going to get those traditional women. They don't speak English, at least in Thailand. Again, in Philippines, I'm actually kind of curious to see how their traditional, with access to all English, social media and everything.
I mean, I have a friend that he met his wife in the Philippines. He went over, they met online type thing. It wasn't a mail order bride situation, but probably wasn't that far from it. Shawana went over, met with her, stayed there for weeks. I don't remember exactly how long it went. This is 20 years ago. And then eventually he came back, but they were still communicating. And then he went back over, I think 2 or 3 more times. She came to visit him here. So it wasn't like he went over, married her, brought her back, and that was it. No, they were courting, 6,000-7,000 miles apart. But, and I've said many times, it's the best marriage I've ever seen, period, hands down. That said, she didn't know a lick of English, and she was from the Philippines.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
She had, I don't remember what the dialect was, but I mean, she knew a little bit English. I shouldn't say that because they learned it in school a little bit, but she was not well versed in it, because I would try and converse with her, and it was, it would be very, very slow, metered type conversation. As long as if I slow down my talk and talk like this, as opposed to how I normally, she could understand me when she first came over. Over time, she became very fluent, but it's just interesting to see the differences, but the similarities also. And I think you're helping to eliminate a lot of these misconceptions that are out there. Because I see these guys on TikTok and I'm like, oh God, no, you see the best of it, right? But you're not seeing the full story. And that's why I appreciate you're doing. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Alex, is, do you see like a characteristic that's, I mean, nobody's exactly the same, but maybe some traits that are normal for both the guys that are, quotes, passport bros, but also the women they're meeting? Do you see any similarities or characteristics in that?
Oh, this is a very, I mean, I think that the foreign men that I've met here are divided into 2 categories. One are men like me who came here with very good intentions, and we want to respect the culture and learn the culture and live here. And there are men who came over here and they basically have no problems just paying for the girls. They've lived here for many years. They don't even bother learning Thai. They're still unhappy. This is such a happy culture. It's impossible to be unhappy here. And this miserable fucks are still unhappy here, right? So it's important not to get into that crowd. I've met a few of those guys and I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you guys. So So I can only speak for the type of that I think I belong to, which is, good attention guys. As far as characteristics of the men, the women well, I think they're dating wrong women, or at least not the best women that they can get if they actually put some effort into it. That's my impression right now. So, and these women, like the other day, I saw a guy like carrying a girl's purse, for no good reason. She just you carry my purse now. You know what I mean? Like, I think I want to do different. I'm going to learn Thai. It's going to take a little bit more time. It's more painful, but I am going to meet a girl that I actually want, rather than settling because, she speaks English and she gave me a couple of massages. So, but I also will probably report maybe next time we talked about more obviously men that I've met and what their experiences have been, I do want to mention a couple of things, unless you have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
You did a good job answering it. There are two controversial things we still need to talk about, because there's one interesting phenomenon here that is, so how in America women hold sex hostage, right? And men
they don't do that.
Yeah. and men just simp for it because there is really no other alternative with at least a live female here. And I'm going to try to make sure we don't get canceled or kicked out of YouTube. There are a lot of alternatives that will cost you less than what you would normally spend on a first date even. So the sex is no longer a bargaining chip here. Hey, you don't feel like being, I'm not that kind of girl after a third date? No problem. Here are my options just on my way home. Are these the best options that I would like to have? No, but sex here is not a bargaining chip. I don't think some of these passport bros know about it, unfortunately, that they don't have to simp for sex anymore. But it is a very refreshing thing here that I've noticed that, sure, you don't want to have sex with me? That's perfectly fine. It's just, I'm good.
That's an interesting point, because I've also heard the same thing from guys that have gone to Europe, right? Because Europeans, and I've been on, for example, on cruises, right? And you've got people from France, Germany, and all that. Their views on sex are much different than those in the States or the UK. Very different. UK is much more open to it than the States is. The States, we are the most repressed people, I think, in the world, to be honest with you.
I think you must have misunderstood me a little bit.
That's why I want to kind of touch on this, though, because I think it's important to understand that maybe I'm wrong, and that's where I want to go with this, is what you're saying is, though, the boundaries are there with sex, but they're not weaponized as much. I'm sure it still happens from time to time. Do you think that it's more because of the cultural differences? Because there are huge cultural differences with regards to sex, and that's what I was trying to stress. But then it kind of translates into the dating, and then, from both perspectives, just kind of go from there.
Okay, so what I was referring to was, how should I put it? There are massage parlors, right? That are very, like I said, it will cost you less than your dinner with the girl if you go take her to a Western restaurant. So on the way home, you can get sex really easily for what we would consider pretty much free. So that girl that you just went out on a date with, she cannot hold that as hostage, and they all know that, right? They kind of all know that. So that's what I'm trying to say. This kind of refreshing, even though I'm not a big fan of using that type of workers, but it's a kind of a common understanding that does not have the same bargaining chip value as it is in America. And that's kind of, I have to say that, like, it's kind of refreshing, because I know I cannot be blackmailed essentially with, by my dates.
Would you say it like takes the pressure off, so to speak? That's really a bad way to put it, but it takes that whole.
That's actually quite literal good way of putting it. To say yes, that totally takes the pressure off, because again, if I want to get laid tonight and I'm going out on a date, I will get late tonight one way or another, right?
Right.
And again, the other way may actually be more budget friendly. so
Okay.
you know what I mean? So like by the way, total true. I'm not even like, I can give you my bills for like, I just went on a date with a girl, and we went out in a few different places, and it was so that was one thing that I wanted to address, that I don't think people talk about it because I don't know, they're afraid to get canceled. I'm not afraid to get canceled, so I just said it. Now, which brings me back to Western women, and how we talked about how, like, once they get infected again, I call it the real virus, and once they become modern women, there's kind of not going back, and the level of delusion, you have never seen the level of delusion of Western women until you try to date one in a country like this. Now, this is amazing. And by the way, you can go on a lot of different forums where women here go like, hey, how's dating going? I can't get a guy. And everyone was like, yeah, we're like invisible here. In America, I would go to a bar within 5 minutes. There's 5 guys on me. Here, I'm like invisible. So these Western women who come here, right? And most, they don't really date Thai men, and Thai men really probably don't want to date them. But, they usually, their choices are us, foreigners. But we are here for obedient, submissive, skinny Asian women, right? so you would think they would adjust, maybe, get to the gym, maybe put some makeup on, maybe put, do some hair, maybe change the attitude. The worst attitude that I've had, and I've been warned, don't date foreign women here, but I'm like, come on, they gotta, they gotta adjust, right? Oh my God, they behave exactly the same way, even though they actually don't have the choices that they would have in America. And it is mind-boggling how, like, you would think it would go to like basic instincts, right? Like, you behave this way, you don't get the candy. Mm-hmm. And you see all these other doggies getting a candy, but all you have to do is just do that same thing, right? But these women, they just don't do it. They are continuously the same modern women, very single, a lot of them. And it is mind-boggling. It is unbelievable how delusion, because American women can afford being delusional, right? I mean, they'll have enough simps and guys who will pay for dinners and drinks and stuff like that. But here they don't. They don't have all these things.
Because the culture there is much different with all of that. So much like we said, the guys have to adjust, the women have to adjust too. And
yeah,
it sounds to me like they're struggling to do that.
Right. But they don't change at all. And, so I know you have a clip that have gone around the internet queued up. So let me just set it, because we gotta watch this clip. It's not that long, but this is this American girl, right? Who, I guess she comes to Thailand, and, she's obviously traveling by herself because she doesn't have a boyfriend. No makeup, no hair. By the way, don't give me this thing, but you're traveling for 15 hours. No, every single girl that I've dated had a full face of makeup, and hair was done perfectly no matter where we went. We could have been on a plane for 12 hours. So, I mean, she's just a freaking mess, right? So she lands here, and, well, why don't you roll the clip?
Let
me
roll it. I was just about to say to you, let me roll the clip first, and then we'll come back to it. So here we go.
Yeah. Honestly, the amount of white dudes with Thai women that are waiting to board international flights, it's an absurdity. It is crazy. Like, half of the couples in this airport right now are beautiful Thai women with super basic white dudes.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 days ago. And the thing that struck me, and then I'll let you take it from there, was I was hearing condescension in her voice towards all the situation in general. Instead of saying, maybe there's something that I need to look at with this to say, why is this situation what it is, right? And instead, and I think this kind of ties into what you were saying, is they're so set in their ways, they can't step out of them. But that's my opinion. I'm going to let you take it from here.
I think it's much worse than that, Dan.
Okay.
What bothered me about that, by the way, she actually does wear some makeup in there, just not good enough makeup, but I should probably correct myself anyway. But so here's what bothered me about it. I'm not sure if I'm bothered by it, but this is because she said, look at all these beautiful Thai women with these basic dudes, right?
Yep.
So this goes to the core of why it's impossible to date in America, is because women do no longer know what a good man is. To her, these guys are basic guys, but you have to understand, just to be a passport bro, first of all, you have to be somewhat worldly, right? Most people can't just get up and go. You have to have a remote job. Usually it's actually pretty well-paying job, so these guys are good providers. You have to know how to live in another country. Most people have no clue how to even live in a different state, much less actually to move to another country. It is a life-changing event, and you have to be actually at least smart to be able to handle getting into the new country and figure out how the healthcare works, how the transportation works, how everything works, and then learn the language and learn the culture. So on top of that, a lot of times this, she can see that these guys, most of them are pretty much in shape. And they are obviously good men and good boyfriends, because there's beautiful women who have other choices, obviously, if they're that beautiful, then chose this man because they probably are good partners and good husbands and good fathers to their children. So what she believes is basic, because I'm assuming she's judging them by their looks. They're not hot dudes that she's used to hitting on her at the bar with neck tattoos, right?
Bingo.
Right? So to her, basic is actually what she should be looking for. You know what I mean? And this is where this disconnect is, right? Women are looking for men to trigger their emotions now, and they completely ignore the important things, like the ability to provide, like the fact that these men usually have good history with women and being in relationships, like that they can be good fathers, like that the fact that they're able to work anywhere in the world and location independent, like the fact that they actually, again, just traveling and living in other countries is a huge skill to have that you don't just get overnight, right? All of these things she's obviously ignored, but she commented how basic looking they are.
Right.
And this, honestly, I feel like this clip goes to the core of why there's such a disconnect in modern dating. And there's so many guys replying to this. A lot of obviously passport bros in Thailand go like, "Oh no, they came here." I posted this video with a "Get off our lawn."
I love it.
Well, because just like, what are you coming here for? We got away from you, and now you're here. Like, just leave, please leave. So, but it's funny, but it's sad, and I don't know what's going to, like, I have to say that I feel really sad for men who are not as fortunate as I am, who, don't have kids. I'm able to live in any country I want. What was I supposed to do if I couldn't do this? Because I couldn't date in America anymore. There was just no choices for me. It was insulting to meet a lot of these women, even the women that I did end up meeting on their first dates. What are these men supposed to do? Now, I do have one answer: is stop fucking simping for these women. Stop it. Stop it. You're making it worse for everybody.
Yeah, I actually did a whole podcast show on that, trying to educate them to say it's going to do the exact opposite of what you think it's going to do, because I've talked with many women about it, and they are repulsed by it. The minute you start, now that doesn't mean be nice and all that. That's fine. But when you, for lack of a better term, grovel, if you will, they hate that. Women hate that beyond any doubt. And I've had, I'm not talking one or two women tell me that. I'm talking hundreds have told me that. And that's, so your point is right. And that's one of the things that, when I'm coaching guys is to say, you know what, get a backbone. Doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. That's not what they're looking for. But you need to have some confidence, first of all. You need to hold your ground because they're going to test you. One of the things that women do, and I actually think this is a good thing, is they're going to test you to see how you respond to them. Me, I'll give it right back to them. It doesn't mean I'm mean to them, right? But if, they push me, I'm going to push back. Again, politely and all that. That's what they're looking for. But most guys, they just do this. They cower down, and the minute you show any of that, and there are exceptions, of course, but the minute you do that, you're done. And I don't think that's just in the States, to be honest with you. I think that's worldwide that women are looking for.
Let me give you, if you don't mind, let me give you one example each. So here's what happened to me the other day. This girl, she's in her late 40s. She's very cute, but still late 40s, okay? Speaks English, boss lady, all of that stuff. So I kind of tried to get with her, but I realized not for me. But so she calls me just flat out, and I ignore her phone call. I said, "Did you just call me?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Why did you think that I would be some dude that's just jerking off and doing nothing, just waiting for your phone call?" I said, "I'm always busy, either with my personal stuff or with my business. You only call me when there's an emergency." "Oh, I'm in your neighborhood. I wanted to let you know that, maybe we can meet up." I said, "If you want to meet up with me, you need to let me know ahead of time. I am a busy man. Why would you want to date or see a guy who's that big of a loser that he's just ready to go at any time? You can call him anytime. You can just drop by anytime. Why would you want to do that?" So I said, "Do not ever call me unless there's an emergency." And next time, and she did it anyway, by the way, next time. And I just stopped talking to her. Now, why did she do it? You know why she did it? Because there's a bunch of guys who picked up the phone.
Of course.
There's a bunch of guys who met her for and those are the guys who we need to talk to very sturdily. And my second story is from out of Houston, very similar. I went to this one place, met a girl. I thought she was very, very good looking. But, I find out she's like in her 40s, a single mother. Okay, all right, fine. Got her phone number. Talked to her for about 10 minutes or so because she was with her family and her friends. Back to I was eating at the bar. They were outside. I was a frequent customer there, so the staff knew me very well. About half an hour later, the waitress comes over and says, "Hey, are you paying for that girl's bill?" I'm like, "Are you asking me if I'm paying for her drinks and dinner bill?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No." She's like, "Okay." I said, "Excuse me, just one second. Just out of curiosity, are you asking me because you saw me with her and you know that I'm here obviously to meet girls and you want me to see if I wanted to do that? Or did she ask you to tell me to pay for it?" She said she asked. So now, of course, I messaged her. I said, "Are you see? I now know why you're single in your 40s."
Right.
But you know why she did that? For the same goddamn fucking reason, because the 10 guys before me did pay for the dinner of a girl who is in her 40s, single mother, who they met for 10 minutes. And because she's wearing a short skirt, now they spent, by the way, that bill was about $80. And even if it was $3, right? It's the problem is these men, which now is a majority of Western men, that they are simping and they're making it worse for themselves and the rest of men who are trying to date and can't. So the responsibility at the end of the day falls absolutely on 99% of Western men that are pathetic simps. And until that stops, these problems will continue.
I agree with you. I think that is the large part of the problem. And going overseas to look for a mate is not going to improve if you don't change who you are, right? I couldn't agree with you more on that because it's one of the things when I'm coaching guys that I spend a lot of time on it because to your point, 90, 95, maybe 99% of them, that's exactly how they act. Again, they can, in many respects, it's what they've been taught. I think a lot of that comes from single motherhood. And I have no scientific data. This is just observation from the guys I work with. The majority of them that are that way come from single mother homes. And they've been conditioned, if you will, to just do whatever the woman wants. And again, you want to be nice, you want to be polite, you want to be respectful, all of those things. But the minute you give her everything she wants, she's going to lose respect for you. And, like
As she should.
yeah, and I agree with you. That's exactly what was going to
You're
be
a
my
pathetic
point.
loser, man.
Yeah,
She should.
she's not going to
lose
see
respect
you
for a pathetic
as someone. Again, it goes back to very basic biology. She's not going to see you as someone that's going to protect her. And as much as they want to deny that they're not looking for a protector, they are. It's ingrained biologically. We have to acknowledge that. And I see it all the time, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's where I think people like you and myself, it's one of the reasons I do what I do. It's not to knock these guys or put them down in any way, shape, or form. I'll put a link in the show notes on this to the podcast I did on it, which was to say, guys, you've got to step back and you've got to say, that's not who I'm going to be anymore. And that's what it comes down to. It's not, you don't have to learn it. I'm not going to just cower down to them. Again, you're not being mean or abusive or any of that stuff, because that's how they'll couch it. But, if a woman were to do to me what happened to you, I would go over to her and say, why did you do that? No, I'm not paying for it. Have a nice day. And I would walk away.
Yeah, I probably should have done it in person, but I was kind of trying to already be a little bit of a better man. So
yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
But I did text her. I said, listen, did you just do this? And she's like, yeah. I said, well, obviously I've just lost all of my interest, but I have a feeling that this is why you're single in your 40s, is because you're looking for, she's like, why? I was like, well, you're looking for a guy who will be, pathetically, or like just a loser who will just do this. Like, do you understand what it takes for a guy to just give you $80 for 10 minutes of your time? I mean, so she still didn't get it, and she'll continue doing this. But like I said, the change has to come from men. I have excluded myself now from that pool because I want to have nothing to do with it, and I don't have time, man. I just don't have time. I'm approaching 50. I'm 46 in this month. And I want to dedicate my next few years. I'd rather adjust to a new culture and understand how I can get a beautiful, submissive Thai woman or Filipino woman or whatever, than to wait and rile up the troops, all of the simps, and try to change simps into alpha men, which I don't think really that is going to be that easy or possible. So that's why I'm here. But what's going to happen with men who don't have a luxury to do this? Gee, and Dan, I'm sure a bunch of guys who, like, I know a bunch of really good men, and who are everything that a woman should want in her husband, and they've been single for a long time,
their whole lives, their entire lives.
Really, yeah. And like, I have this one friend that like is just the hardest worker, just one of the best human beings I know, right? And he's also in shape. He plays soccer still, and I showed his picture to other my female friends. They're like, yeah, no, he's not gorgeous, but he is, he's all right, And I actually tried to hook him up with my female friends. Now, all my female friends are, women that I don't want to fuck, and because that's how it should be. But also they're boss ladies, right? Because they're my friends. That's the type of a woman usually I would be friends with, right? Someone I wouldn't, screw, and someone who is a boss chick, and man, she just drove him out so fast, and this is I know that she wants to have a happy life with her husband, and, and then she just drove him away so fast. And I don't know, just personally don't know a guy who I would recommend more to be a potential future husband for my good female friend. And now they're still both single.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad.
It speaks to how dating is broken at this point from both sides, right? Is, the men aren't doing what they should be doing. The women aren't doing what they should be doing. And I blame my fellow boomers and, what's the next one after that? Gen Z or X? I have no idea what the hell. I don't even know. But, my parents and raised me a certain way. And then, I passed that on to my children. My children don't deal with this stuff, My two older daughters are very happily married. My youngest daughter, she's just not there yet, but she's dating some really good guys, you know. But I'm also omnipresent that the wrong guy does the wrong thing, I'm going to squash him like a bug, you know, because that's what dads do. But I also think that I put the blame largely on my generation. You know, I was born in the 60s. And we grew up under that first wave. It's not really first wave feminism, but I use that term, first wave feminism. We wanted our daughters to get the same things, same opportunities that our sons did, and they largely did. You know, I remember what it was like in the 70s. I remember what it was like in the 80s. It started really changing in the mid to late 80s and 90s. And now dating is just broke. And I honestly, I'll be honest with you, Alex, I don't think it's going to be fixed in my lifetime. I really don't.
I agree. I agree.
I just don't see it.
And if I may, can I also just describe this one of the dates that I went to that I really
Please.
like? And
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
I remember from dating when I was,
go ahead.
things weren't broken. So, this girl, it was it was, I think, a second date, right? So we met up. By the way, she came to me. She took, most people take public transportation. So this is not like, it's very nice here, by the way. Sometimes it's much faster to take public transportation. So she came all the way to me. She spent some time. I spent 3 minutes walking. She spent 30 minutes getting to me. And then as a gentleman, I ordered her a car to take her back, by the way. So I did my job. But I'm just saying, she valued my time much more. She valued hers. Excellent. And it is the second date. And, but she already ate because my schedule is really weird. But I said, listen, I really need to eat. She's like, no. So she sat there and I said, let me give you a drink and everything. She got her a drink and it just water. So, okay. And she just sat there and make sure that I was eating. And there was one thing that I didn't know how to say in Thai. And I said, well, chicken livers. I like chicken livers. And she's like, okay, well, and then within 5 minutes, the chicken liver showed up at my table because she went and talked to the staff and made sure that her man, who's only second date, had what he wanted, which was the chicken livers. Mm-hmm. Then we went to my place, and afterwards, not only I got a massage, but also I went to the bathroom. I came back. My bed was already made. The one dish that I had in my, sink was already washed, and she folded the towels. And the towels that she used, she actually put into the washing machine. Okay. Now, of course, when we had dinner, I paid for it. I made sure she got home safe. Like I said, I ordered a car. I treated her with nothing but respect. All the doors open up. All the chairs are being moved. Just full respect. Whatever she wants on my end that I can do for her, I absolutely will. But this is the type of women that I missed, where, she just did everything, what her role was in this, and I did everything that I needed. As I actually feel a little bad because I wanted to pay for her lunch or dinner, or whatever we're having, and I will next time, but she just wasn't hungry. So, but I made sure that she, everything else was absolutely 100% taken care of. That just for those of you men who are listening, like, this is a real date. This is a real woman who understands her role, and as long as you play yours, by the way, that's very important.
And you played your. I was just going to say exactly that. Is she's looking for you to do what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so you know, she's not my wife, right? This is like literally a second date. I have experienced this in America when I was dating, because this is the type of women I dated until, about 5 years ago. Just FYI, if you never know what a submissive, good, subordinate, and amazing woman is, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to more and more dates where I get to be a man, and in return, she gets to take care of me and be a woman and make sure that her man has everything that I need, everything's taken care of, and I will absolutely do the same for her. And I can do a lot here, obviously,
Right.
So, FYI.
I have a question I'm going to ask you, and I've been saving this one.
All right, let's do it.
So I know how I would answer it, but the common thing you'll often hear from Western women, and you see it on TikTok all the time, and Instagram for that matter, is this I don't know, I'm trying to put it in a polite way that won't get me canceled. This belief that they have that these women in other countries somehow aren't intelligent enough. I'm trying to be polite here to, they think that the guys going over to meet them are looking for basically women who can't, I don't know, fold a paper towel, for lack of a better term. That's not the reality. These women are highly intelligent. And I've watched some of the videos they've done in response. I actually love watching it, because there was one, I should have saved it, where, the Western woman, she was from somewhere in the States, just put, I think it was Filipino women, I'm not sure, just put them down. They're too stupid to know what's going on. I mean, it was horrible what she said. And the response back was, I've got these degrees, I know what I'm doing, I know how to handle. What are your thoughts, and what do you see on that? I mean, the belief that the Western women have, and I know I'm generalizing, is that these men are going overseas to find women that are incapable of taking care of themselves, when the reality is they're quite capable of taking care of themselves. They just want the traditional values that you're talking about.
Right. So let's unpack that. So when they say that they're too stupid, like, first of all, you understand there's a good public education system here. And I'm trying to think if I've met a girl that had less than a college degree here, but even if they, so as far as intelligence is concerned, I like I said, the educational system here is, you know what I mean? Like, when
they're not stupid. No, it's right. I call it pure racism, to be honest with you.
Right. But I don't really accept book smarts as actually, like, I've met quite a few smart, dumb people, right, who are really book smart, but they're really stupid, really, about life. So to me, that doesn't really matter. So what matters is whether or not they actually, like, smart in real life.
Right.
And you have to understand, they are, by the way, they work so much harder than Western women. I mean, like, the girl that I just the girl that I went out on yesterday, she works 6 days a week from morning to midnight. Okay, that's how hard they actually work to make money for themselves, because they provide. Now, secondly, don't forget, these women, they all live with their families, right. So they don't really need us. Like, my concern was, like, well, I don't want to date a girl who won't be able to leave me because she won't, I'm providing for her. That's not a problem here. They all will go back to their families, to their homes, where they have their own rooms and they have their own families that will accept them back. So they don't really need the money from Western men to live on, because, like I said, if they can provide even for themselves, which most of them can because they work very hard, but they absolutely have a place to go. It's a much more communal type of a society. So, but as far as whether these women are smart, I honestly, I don't really even know what to say to that, because to me, it's the Western women that are dumb, because they are end up, in their 40s and 50s, wrapped in cat hair with the bottles of, antidepressants around them.
I love how you're putting it.
Who's the dumb ones? You know what I mean? Like, these women actually, they don't have a bunch of baby daddies here, right? They have a great family and friends support system, and when they date, they actually demand respect for themselves.
That's a great point right there that you just made. They demand respect. That is something I think you should kind of talk a little bit more about, because they do demand respect. They're not pushovers.
Well, if even if they didn't, their families would, right? They're gonna come home, right? By the way, this girl told me that her brother just happened to be driving by and saw us on a date. It's a huge city, and yet it's very tiny. You know what I mean? So, like, their family, they come back to their families, and this guy did this, and their families will be like, no, this is not good. And they will be and they will support her in making a better choice. Does it always work? Of course not. But they absolutely demand respect for themselves. And I can't imagine not giving it to them. It's just so easy. They don't need to demand it because I will absolutely provide it. They deserve it almost right away. I'm talking about the women that I just told you about.
Right.
Not, so I I know it's an easy, cheap shot at foreign women, but you also have to understand a lot of Americans in general, but that also include American women, have no clue how other people live in the world. People go, America, America, we're number one, number one. You can only say that if you've never been to another country.
Right.
I can tell you, this is developing country, and it's already better at freaking healthcare. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that an average Thai man lives longer than an average American man?
I've talked about many times the Eastern cultures, whether you Thailand, Japan, Philippines, Okinawans live the longest. There's something to be said about their culture that drives a lot of that, and
so they're better than America at healthcare. One of the most important things. I mean, almost any country, unless it's just a ruin in the middle of a war, that's better at education than America. They're just so. But here's the thing: as soon as you visit one country, as soon as you get off the plane, right, and start understanding that not everything is in English, you start realizing that other people live better because they live different types of lives that you never thought about it. So when Americans in general, but specifically American women, have some sort of a judgment on how other cultures and other people live, it's hilarious and sad to those of us who have actually traveled and seen how other people live. They may not have the latest iPhones, you know what I mean? But they certainly have happier and longer lives. Yep. And to me, that's a big W. So I don't know why you or other people have decided to somehow maybe take this particular thing that Western women say seriously. I do not believe that anything that Western women, when they talk about dating, should be taken seriously, because it comes from a place of delusion and anger and not understanding at all what the other gender wants. And really, like I said, the delusional Western women here is the best example, is that they can't even adjust to make themselves happy. Forget about other men, but themselves happy. So I don't really want to take any statements from Western women about dating or about men at this point seriously, because they do no longer deserve to be taken seriously. So you know what, I'm giving you an answer, but I probably shouldn't have.
No, Alex, I think you're spot on with that. I think what goes on with that is they've realized in some way, they won't admit it, but they've realized, we're in trouble, right? Because you're able to go to Thailand, guys are going to Philippines, people are going to South American countries. And I hate to tell you this, but if you think a Latin woman is a pushover, I got news for you. Okay, they are anything but, and God bless them for it. But I think the women, primarily in the States, but I'll throw in the UK and some of the other, Australia, they have this mindset that they're superior, but they're in the back of their mind, they're like, I know I'm not. And they're feeling threatened. And I think that's why they're so, like we had in that video, she was very condescending towards those couples. And I think a lot of it comes from fear, because she wants what they have. Who wouldn't, right? You would want it, I would want it, she wants it. But she doesn't know how to get it, because she's been so conditioned to expect, I call it the Disney prince, the perfect guy. It's absolutely 100%. He's a 10 in every category. Nobody is that. And they see these flaws. And the guy, I've said it many times, I've done videos on it. The guy could have 99 out of 100 traits are good. They'll focus on the one that's not, whatever it might be. In my case, they like to point out I'm bald. Okay. What do you think on that?
I think this could be the first time we actually disagree. And I think
Okay.
it's for the same reason as I said last time. I think you're giving Western women way too much credit at this point when it comes to dating.
Fair enough.
If we talk about being VPs of marketing and boss chicks, they're actually probably one of the best. When it comes to dating, I really do believe that they genuinely are convinced that they don't need no man. I really do believe that the majority of them now believes they don't need no man. Now, by the time they realize they're wrong, it's going to be too late, right? But right now, the women who are dateable and marketable, who say I don't need no man, they really do believe that. So for this modern woman that we saw on that clip, for her to be jealous or threatened, she has to want something that's good for her, right? Like those men, for example. But she doesn't. She really does think genuinely that those are basic men that she wouldn't want. That's why she's making that comment,
I completely
right?
agree with you there. She's looking for Brad Pitt with millions of dollars in that, and not going to happen.
But if it's not Brad Pitt, she's perfectly fine with Netflix and laundry.
Exactly.
And I think that's actually, this is the cherry on top that that happened during COVID, right? Women realized that, oh, you mean I don't need to put a makeup on, do hair, get out of my Crocs, and be nice to a man. I can just actually going to be me and Netflix. And when I say laundry, you understand, right?
I do. I do.
Right. So you know what I mean? And because they kind of got used to doing it for 2 years, unfortunately, they're basically now saying, you know what, if we are getting out of those Crocs, we want Brad Pitt, and otherwise we're perfectly fine dying alone. It's a flawed argument, but they truly believe in it. And like I said, by the time the Matrix, blows up, it's too late. So I don't think she's jealous of those women, or she's threatened at all. I think she's traveling by herself, which I think is very sad. I think, when you travel, one of the biggest benefits is sharing the experience.
Yep.
With someone you love, and she's perfectly fine with it. By the time she starts being jealous of those basic men that she will probably realize that living a much better lives than she has lived, it's going to be too late. She's going to be in her 50s or 60s, and that's it. That's over. I'm sorry. It's just over if you're in your 50s and you're a single woman. It's done.
At 30s in a lot of cases at this point.
Yeah. So I disagree with you in giving them, these modern women, too much credit, because thinking that they know what they want and what's good for them. They just don't anymore.
You brought up a very interesting point, Alex, and it's something that I've been ruminating on, and I've been trying to think of a way to do a video on it, and it's COVID. Because your point about women learn to be home alone and all that is spot on, but guess what? So did men. And the thing that men found out is, hey, this ain't so bad. It's better than putting up with the woman who's screaming at me because I didn't fold the towels right. And I think, whatever you think on COVID, I think some good is going to come out of this for guys. Men are realizing, because there was a culture shift, and I'm looking back at it. I've been in this fight to try and help guys for 30-something years. We were getting, we made small gains here and there, but it really, in 2019, it was no different than it was in 1989. It really wasn't. There's a culture shift going on, and it's huge. And it's guys are realizing that, you know what? I might be better off being home alone. I might be better off, going fishing or whatever. Pick your hobby, right? I do think that's directly related to COVID. Time will tell. It's too soon to know for sure. But you can actually, if you look at, even on social media, the change, it was during COVID. And I think that's also something that's going to show up long term, is that guys now realize, you know what? I'm okay alone. And I'll wait for the right woman to come along, as opposed to, like you said, oh, she showed me some interest, I'm going to be all over that. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 10, 15, 20 years. Like I said, I don't think dating is getting fixed in my lifetime. I don't. I'll be actually.
I don't think so. Well, there is one way to fix dating, right?
What is that?
And it's to go, well, it's to go where it's still alive, which is
overseas,
other countries.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's only two choices men have. You either just stop dating and you just die alone, or you do something about it. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to a few men, my friends, before leaving United States. I said, listen, you need to get your asses on TikTok, YouTube, whatever. Start making some money where the location is no longer a thing. And by the way, I can confirm now that if you come here and you live a just good life, right? Just you have your nice little apartment and, not in a bougie area, just a nice clean apartment, and you eat regular Thai food here, and you take transportations, you don't buy a Mercedes, you can live here, including everything you need for under $2,000 right now in Bangkok. And if it's outside of Bangkok, even less.
Wow.
So get your asses into, I don't care what it is that you do, but make sure that you're location independent. You can make $2,000 a month, which is really reasonable.
Shouldn't be that hard.
Be able to,
yeah.
Yes. And then you will be able to go and live in these still oases or the still remaining parts of the world where you can actually meet a girl. Like I said, lots of work to do here. Lots of work to do. Start learning the language.
We've got a few minutes left. That's the one thing that we haven't really talked about that I want to cover because I think it's important is for someone that's considering it, right? You just did this. Can you give me the top, I don't know, let's say 3 to 5 things that you've kind of mentioned one of them, which is, find your income, but that you need to be doing to set yourself up so that, because my fear would be for guys that, all right, I'm going to go to Thailand or the Philippines or wherever, Colombia. I'm just going to up and move like that. Because I see guys post that on TikTok. I got my passport. I'm moving next week. No plan, nothing. So if you can give us like the top few things that you think are important to think about and plan for if you're considering doing this type of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I just went through this, so I can easily tell you what it is. Number one is obviously make sure you have, at least I would say $2,000 per month of income that you can earn after tax. Now, I do have to say that you need to understand that if you're a U.S. citizen and if you're in other countries, look it up. We do qualify, and I'm not giving you tax advice, but we qualify to a bunch of exclusions. And if you live in the state of like California, you do no longer have to pay California taxes if you don't live there. Where majority of the money that you're going to earn will stay with you. You will pay no income. Again, look it up and hire CPA, but you will keep most of your money. So when you earn $2,000 a month, you will probably keep about almost that much. So keep that in mind. So make sure that you figure out how to do. If it's your rental property, bringing in, if try to start an online business, but make sure it's location independent. It's probably going to be good on many other ways in the future, especially if you're younger. You have many issues to be concerned about where you might want to move countries at some point. So that's number one, income. It's a big one, but fucking start now.
Yep.
Just start that YouTube channel if you're into that, or start that drop shipping business or something, but you can do online tutoring. You can teach English online through Upwork and Fiverr. You can provide, if you're a software engineer or a graphics designer, or even if you have a nice voice, people will hire you on Upwork and Fiverr to record, voice. So start that. Number one. Number two, start learning about the culture where you're going. It's going to be different. Including the language, you just start learning. But, if you don't have any friends in that country, there are people who live there. There are expat communities online, start talking to them, start making some online friends, start having conversations and asking them questions. And there's a good majority of them will probably be able to help you with the advice. Start watching TikTok videos and YouTube channels about, what it's like to live, not visit, but to live in those countries. As a matter of fact, do not watch videos about what it's like to visit Thailand or Philippines or whatever. Those will be literally they're bad for you, those videos. Just look at the videos of people who live here. And find out about like how to get health insurance here and what kind of transportation, what kind of neighborhood you should end up with, at least in the beginning, so it's closer to public transportation. For example, I got here where it was a ridiculous heat, the huge humidity, so my hotel was 30 seconds walking distance from the SkyTrain. Figure that shit out. But honestly, it's really not that hard if you really want it. Like, I pretty much gave you what you need to do right now. That's it.
Okay. Is there, obviously a passport is necessary, but is there anything else as far as paperwork or anything? Every country is going to be different, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So okay, listen. About that.
Yeah. So visa is a big deal. Now, the reason a lot of people end up in Thailand, the reason why I went to Thailand is because you actually can buy up to 20 years of official visa from Thai government. It's gonna cost some money, but you will save that in taxes and living here anyway. So you do need to have some savings, right, to kind of change your life, and you'll spend a little bit more upfront. Don't go to the country that will kick you out after 6 months. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? So research that. There are some countries in South America, there's some countries in Africa, and Thailand, and I believe Philippines, where you can actually stay there forever. There are different types of visas. There's retirement visas, investor visas, and so forth. So research that. Make sure that if you do like that country, once you move there, you are able to legally stay there, for as long as you want. So that's important. So I can tell you Thailand, Portugal, Philippines, I believe Nairobi, and a few other countries are quite known for that. And that's why they have the biggest expat communities.
And one thing I'll probably throw out is go visit before you decide to move there, and don't go to the tourist areas. Like you were talking about that. So and I'll give you a beautiful example of it. The island of St. Croix in the Caribbean. If you go to the tourist areas, it's gorgeous, beautiful. I've been outside the tourist areas. They will kill you. I had to go with a bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
You need to go. Yes, videos, absolutely. Like you were talking about, YouTube is a fantastic source for that. But also, you need to go visit it, I would say. Again, it teaches own on that, but know what you're getting yourself into. Do some research, because what I fear is, and I see it all the time on TikTok especially, I got my passport, I'm leaving next week. I'm like, where are you going, dude? And it's not just up and move. There's a little bit of work that needs to be done. I think
Now, I do have to say that I've never been to Thailand before this. However, I have been to Vietnam next door, China, and about 15 other countries. I'm originally from Russia, and so I actually immigrated already once. So I felt, and I talked to my friends, for about a year on daily basis. So I really have done a lot of research. So I have moved here sort of sight unseen, but as I thought, I haven't seen here anything that I didn't really expect.
But you also you talk to people that were there, so you got that perspective that way, and that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But
like I said, I have been to Vietnam and China. They are different, more of an, definitely Asian. They're all different, but they're, and I've been, I'm also from Europe, and I carry that culture, so I understand what to expect, and I've been to other countries that are called developing countries. I understand that, not all the sidewalks are very even. You have to watch where should we go, but if you've never been outside of America, for crying out loud, you should visit no matter what, by the way.
If you've never been outside
a better person.
If you've never been outside of America, you need to go visit, because you have no idea what you're walking. I've been to several different countries, and as we talked about earlier, a total different way of life. And so,
but don't go to the tourist area. Do not go to Puerto Vallarta in Paris and tell me you know what it's like to be abroad. You fucking don't still.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, like don't do that.
I mean, at one point I was looking at Jamaica. Like, maybe I'll move to Jamaica, and I've been in the tourist areas, Ocho Rios and all that. They're beautiful. You get outside of the tourist areas, literally living in tar shacks. you know,
Yeah.
and that's not to knock any of that, but that's the reality. And if you were to just go by what you see in the tourist areas, you might not realize what you're walking into.
Yeah. And by the way, it's like I'm actually okay with like poor areas. I'm like,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
okay because I'm
absolutely.
from Russia. And honestly, no, I haven't seen a poor areas than Oakland, California, by the way. Still. So, but at the same time, what you probably should really watch out for is like literally crime, like because
Yeah.
like there's almost no crime here in Thailand, especially in the main cities. But some countries really do have like you will just get kidnapped just because you're white and they
Right.
think you
Yeah.
have money and you might.
And
So safety is very important. So make sure you go into a country that you might be okay with some of the poverty, but definitely make
yeah,
sure
just
that it's and again, I'm from Oakland, California. I lived there for a while, but at least I was allowed to carry a gun there. Here,
I'm laughing
cannot carry
because
guns.
I can name a few cities that in the United States that probably are far worse off than many of the people would consider them third world countries that I've been to, and they're anything but, by the way. Again, like you said, do your research and all that. Alex, this has been awesome. I'm going to let you come up with one final thought that you want to share with the audience. Can be anything you want. Go ahead.
Honestly, it's this one thing where I think your happiness is the most important thing at the end of your life, right? Having regrets, it's the worst feeling in the world, as many studies showed when they talk to people who are on their deathbed, right? So if you are not happy with your life, especially for something as important of having a life partner, right? Change it. Now, it's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to cost money. It's going to be a lot of work and a lot of stress a lot of times. But for things like this, I think having a person who loves you for the rest of your life next to you is worth all of that a million times over. So if something's not working, I'm talking about big things, but I'm also talking about small things. If you hate your boss, go and get another job, kind of a thing. But if your dating life is in a poor shape like mine was, change it. And not just by changing location, also become a better man. By the way, I became such a better man just being in this culture where everybody respects each other versus where everybody hates each other, in California. Become a better man, get in a better shape, earn some extra, income that you can live off overseas, be a happier man. Be more content with yourself, but if something is not working in your life, change it. No one else is going to do it for you. And at the end of the day, at the end of your life, it's definitely going to be worth it. So this is not an easy journey for me to do as a 46-year-old man who had actually a pretty good life in America. I have most of my family and friends there. This was very uncomfortable. It still is. Just ask my gastrologist, just getting used to the food, but change what's not working for you. That would be my message.
Amen, brother, on that.
All right, I know it was a long one, but I also hope that you guys got a lot of value out of this. As like I said, I wish somebody would have told me about all of this before I came here. Now, that would not have changed my decision, and I'm obviously still a newbie, and there will be a lot to discover. So stay tuned, subscribe to this channel if you want, because I will have further updates.